Okay, well, welcome again, everybody, to NamCon Day 3. This is very exciting. So everyone, I hope, is having a really great NamCon. I know I am. It's been incredible. It's going by pretty fast. And it's kind of weird to think that, we have today and then we have tomorrow and then NamCon is over already. It seems like it's gone by really, really fast. I want to start out today with a moment of silence. Today is actually a important day because it's Breonna Taylor's birthday. And if you don't know who Breonna Taylor is, I encourage you to please just do a simple Google search and you'll hear about her life and her unfortunate passing. But she would have been 27 today. And so what I want us to do during this moment of silence, we'll take about a minute for a moment of silence. But during that moment of silence, I don't want you to just sit and do nothing. What I instead want you to do is think about what role you can play in being transformative or having an impact in what's going on in the world today. So that can be, you could think, hey, I'm going to give some funding to Black Lives Matter, or maybe I'm going to educate myself on how to be a better ally, or maybe I'll start that difficult conversation we sort of talked about at the beginning of NamCon with somebody who I know needs to hear something. But I want us to just take a minute to acknowledge the beautiful life that she did live, to acknowledge what brought us to her death, and to think about how we could change things in a way that would prevent more people like her from being killed. So if you would just allow us to do that, that would be great. That'll also allow some other folks to get into the room. So we're gonna do, it's 1:03 here right now. So we're gonna be silent till 1:04. And I just ask that everyone, again, just think about a way that you can make a difference in your community. It can be individual, it can be collective. Just take a moment. This moment, again, is for Breonna Taylor's birthday. She would have been 27 today. Thank you for that moment. So today we're going to hear from our wonderful keynote speaker, Alexa Levy. Her talk today is titled A Version of a Regenerative World, A Just Transition. But before we get started with her wonderful talk, I just wanted to take a few moments to tell you about some housekeeping items. So first of all, we have notes. Some of you may not realize this, but we actually at NamCon have notes for our sessions. And I want to thank everyone who's volunteered to be a documentarian. There's a little file name and header that needs to remain in the notes, so please don't delete that. That's the one note I got from our team that is leading the documentarians. But I wanted to let everyone else know that these are community notes. So what that means is even though there's a documentarian and that person is sort of in charge of the notes, any one of you can go into the notes during the session and help that documentarian out. And we actually encourage that because we want to make sure that we're actually getting all of the notes and all of the information that we need. And again, the recordings and the notes will be available to you as attendees after the conference, not immediately, but after the conference, we will provide these recordings and notes to you. The second little note I wanted to remind everyone is that Sketch, unfortunately, even though you put your email into Sketch, it doesn't share that with everyone except for the organizers. So if you want people to contact you, or if you're like interested in actually networking further, please feel free to use your bio in Sketch to let people know how to contact you. That can be, here's my link on LinkedIn. You could tell people, find me on Facebook, or you can put in your email if you so desire. So if you want to get more engaged with people, please feel free to put your information inside the bio. And then the last reminder, which is a really important reminder, is don't forget to visit our virtual exhibit booths. I'm really excited about these, guys. People are winning things. Someone won, actually Pete Prodel yesterday won a $100 gift card to Matter Hackers. How awesome is that? So Matter Hackers today is actually giving out a 3D Doodler Create Plus printing pen set, which is really, really exciting. If you have kids, they'll love them, because like my kid has one of these things and it's really awesome, and she really loves it. She's 11 and she plays with it all the time. So, and it's actually fun for adults too. So you don't have to have kids to enjoy it, but they're giving away that today. X Prize is also doing really amazing things. They have information about their Rainforest X Prize, and they're having a live session at 2 p.m. today with Peter Houlihan, who's the technical lead for the Rainforest X Prize. And then ShopBot has this really sweet message from Bill Young at ShopBot. So please go over there and check that out. And then there's also a film screening. So if you haven't seen the film yet, we know some people are having problems with the password. The password has been removed, so there's no password anymore. It's a really lovely video, movie called Me and My Robot. Please watch it when you get a chance. But today, Alex Crooks will be giving a presentation about the film and a question and answer at 3 p.m. So there's lots of content today beyond all the content I just told you. There's sessions on how to shift your model and refocus post-COVID. There is a session on prioritizing inclusion in maker education, which we can all agree is very, very important. And our survey team is going to report out today on what the results of last year's annual survey of makerspaces data showed. So that's really exciting. So very, very exciting day coming up, and I'm excited for you to be here. And I think I said excited 3,000 times, but anyway. So now I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker for today. Again, Alexa Levy. She's an organizer, educator, public school teacher, permaculture designer, and artist. In various positions, she has worked with youth as a facilitator of rich learning, from teaching kindergarten in public schools in New York City to kindergarten in the forest in California, to a permaculture and restorative justice program at a middle school in Oakland, growing food, creating regenerative systems, and curating events around art and social justice. She has been exploring alternative avenues of education in search of piecing together an educational utopia where justice and compassion are at the forefront. Alexa is a core member, organizer, and educator with the Permaculture Action Network, an organization that mobilizes thousands of people to take direct action on regenerative projects by collaborating with performing artists and cultural events. This work regenerates ecosystems and catalyzes movement for a just transition by partnering with a diversity of projects and groups forging pathways to collective liberation. I cannot wait to hear Alexa's talk, so I'm going to stop talking and let her begin. Thank you for joining us, Alexa.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. Hi, y'all. My name's Alexa. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts with you today, and for Dorothy for putting this together and the whole team, and for all of y'all who are dedicated to making this world better for everything and for everyone. Starting off with a moment to honor Breonna Taylor's birthday today brought me to tears. Thank you, Dorothy. That was really important. And I just also want to ground myself, and I support myself in grounding by sharing some gratitude. So I'm grateful for the people in the being seen and unseen that have come before me, who have fought and who have lived. I'm grateful for my family and my comrades who offer love. I'm grateful for the land and what I learn when I listen and tend to it. So I've been a youth educator for over 10 years in New York City and in Oakland, California, a restorative and transformative justice facilitator as an alternative to punitive systems in schools. I sing in the Thrive Choir. I'm a young herbalist and a gardener. And like Dorothy was saying, I spent a lot of my time as a core member of a grassroots organization called Permaculture Action Network. So Permaculture Action Network partners with musical artists and music festivals and different cultural events. We mobilize people to days of direct regenerative action at projects like urban farms and community spaces. And all of these spaces are place-based projects that model the ways many communities across the country can transition to a more just and regenerative economy and way of living. So over the past like 5+ years, there have been 101 Permaculture Action Days and over 15,000 people who have come to these free events to learn, to grow, and to build together. So Permaculture Action Network has the strategy of meeting people where they're at. We recognize that we want more people to be in this movement with us. And where are people? People are, not at the moment, going to concerts and events. We're doing other things. Here we are at an event live. But we're meeting people where they're at concerts and events. And we invite this soft invitation and this visceral experience of what it really feels like to be with the land, to create regenerative systems with our hands, to imagine localized food systems, and ultimately be well with each other. So hundreds of people at a time come to these days of action, working on hands-on projects and attending workshops and sharing a meal, all while music is happening. And to me, it's been incredibly beautiful and inspiring over these years. And so much has come out of it. So why have we chosen this path of work? Well, here we are, right? In a global pandemic. It's landed across all land masses on this earth. Black bodies are being murdered in broad daylight. People are hungry and unhoused on the streets. Our earth is calling for us to pay attention as skies clear and birds migrate and butterflies flutter, as white supremacy is being acknowledged more publicly than ever before. And we're now experiencing uprising in the streets for justice. To me, creating resilient localized communities with food, shelter, water, conflict resolution, tending to people's mental health and joy is key to me thinking of how to move forward where life is truly valued. So I remember back in December and in January saying, like, oh, this might be cheesy, but I was hoping this year would bring 2020 vision. And I remember I like prayed for clarity to gear us toward a recalibration of our society as one that really will work for all and not just for some, and a year that will change the way we interact with the earth. I wasn't sure what or exactly how the change I was praying for would come about, but in many ways, the opportunities are here in front of us and potentially more accessible than ever before. Maybe, maybe the earth gave us this virus as a sign to slow down, to take a deeper look at the destruction we humans are egotistically perpetuating violently on each other and the soil and all living species. Maybe not, but either way, we're in a heightened moment. And someone that I follow on Instagram, Angel Cryoto Williams from Zen Change Angel, posted this week, there's no such thing as neutral. Wherever you're spending your time, energy, money, and heart resources, demand the public stand. Make them tell you who they really are, what morality, love, and liberation mean to them, and then hold them accountable to actions or withdraw your resources immediately. This is an act of love, and the time is now. The destruction that humans have caused to people and the planet have been appalling and horrific, at least to me. And we have an opportunity to dissect all of this now. I'm inviting you all, I invite myself as well, to ask yourself multiple times a day, what will I do? And act, how will I act? We've all been placed here right now for a reason. So as the topic of this conference is sustainability, building and supporting an ecosystem that sustains us all, I wanted to just take a little bit of a closer look at what it means to be sustainable. So, and well, sustainability is really about maintenance and to keeping something at a certain rate or a certain level. And in my opinion, as we imagine a world that can build really and support ecosystems that sustain, honestly, all life, being sustainable is not going to be enough. Whereas incorporating regenerative practices and restoring systems so they can improve naturally. The word regenerative really means to go beyond sustainability. It looks at healing living systems and increasing biodiversity and repairing the damage that has been done. For me, when I think of how I imagine this transition to a more regenerative world, permaculture has really been a helpful tool for me. And honestly, it's changed my entire life. Designing based on the patterns we see in nature, guided by principles and ethics of people care and earth care and fair share, it's not only ecologically based. So there's components of permaculture that encompass all aspects of social permaculture, which explores how the same principles we use to design ecological systems like food forests and water catchments and natural buildings and the like can also be used to design social systems like communities and decision-making structures and economic relationships and collaborative groups. This is a way that people for centuries have been working with each other and with the land, learning from the land and designing from that. So how do we get there? How do we become regenerative? How do we heal the living systems of the people and the planet? Well, the time is here. We are in the just transition. In my opinion, we must slow down or stop the harm that's being done by extractive, exploitative paradigms. We must create alternative systems that are socially just and that are regenerative. We must help change the cultural narrative, which is really the story of our time in a significant way. We have such an opportunity to change this story. It's here right now. And these spheres of action are inspired by Joanna Macy. She's an elder, and she calls this time the Great Turning. Some like to call it the Just Transition, which is something I'm naming right now. And so Permaculture Action Network uses these spheres as guiding principles when we organize and we work with local communities to come up with solutions and systems to be implemented really according to what they want, what they need, and how we can be in service to empower their self-determination. We're never coming in and saying, oh, this is what you all need, let's make that happen. It's really about relationships, about listening to one another and being there in solidarity. Of course, some things are going to take time as we transition. There are other things that call for immediate urgency, like Black lives, Black joy, and Black liberation matter urgently. That anti-racism and anti-oppressive work must be happening right now, especially by white people with other white people, and this can't wait any longer. And it's uncomfortable, and I think folks must step into the discomfort of that work and humble themselves. And then there's other things in this just transition that are going to take a bit more time and collective learning, like I think of decentralizing power and creating more horizontal structures and governance and cooperative ownership of workplaces, local food systems, ecological regeneration and restoration, alternative economies, alternatives to oppressive institutions like the police and public school systems and prisons. The list obviously goes on. I personally think and feel urgent around those issues as well, and that's crucial. But realistically, I know there will be a learning curve for some of those aspects that might take a little bit more strategy and truly studying and learning. My hope is for more people to recognize that we as humans are interconnected by nature, and therefore we can create interdependence with the land and with each other. And this is really going to take work and reskilling, but indeed it really is possible. And in my opinion, it's every single person's responsibility to find their part in the whole, because because each living creature has such a unique purpose, and we might as well utilize it for the greater good and collective liberation. If you're an artist, be an artist, like speak out, share your creativity. If you're a maker, make things that could be useful to your community, right? And Permaculture Action Network has been really liberating for me as a platform to practice this. Just inviting y'all to do what you can, to get on the streets, humble yourselves, support a community garden, listen to Black and Brown voices, form groups with white communities to deconstruct white supremacy. In my opinion, we have to do these things and more if we want to build a future that works for all. Yesterday, this has been a hard week, and I'm sure it has been for many, and illuminating. And I definitely go through these emotional rides of waves. And yesterday I took a much needed day of caring for my heart and for my spirit. I went on the Sonoma coast up in California, and I harvested seaweed, and I honored the power of the ocean. And when I was there, I asked for the waters to take my rage and to turn it over. And the waves were crashing and allowing my emotions to dissolve into another form. And the water really supported me to generously move through what I was experiencing the whole day long. And it also reminded me to continue practicing to be more like it. The power of this ocean that connects us all, this strong yet calm, this steady and yet yielding, this subtle and yet beautiful ocean. And I suggest to you all to take time to learn from nature and the magical patterns she offers. Ask and listen, and that the earth can truly be a place that holds us as we grieve and as we mourn and as we learn and as we grow, because we can't do it alone. And sometimes we want to be alone as a human as we process, and the earth really, really helps ground and guide us in ways that are unimaginable. We're in this totally together. We need all the makers and the creatives and the artists and the activists and the earth tenders. And I am grateful for this conference and looking through all of the workshops and seeing what people are offering and knowing that people are interested and willing to be creative and collaborative towards this future that really is better for all. So thank you all again for being here. I prefer the style of being able to engage with each other a little bit more. So if people do have questions or kind of want to have a conversation, I would love to. If you also want to follow Permaculture Action Network on Facebook and Permaculture Action on Instagram, or if you have connections to performing artists or festivals or cultural events, or you have the opportunity to financially donate, we would greatly appreciate that. We totally need resources to organize and to build rainwater catchment systems and to plant public food forests and build free farm stands. Unfortunately, capitalism still exists as the main means for financial or acquiring resources. And yeah, another thing to just share is that Permaculture Action Network, while we're inside and can't be hosting our public events, which has been a big change for us, we're working on this Just Transition map that will live on our website, where we are going to be mapping out different exemplary spaces and projects that are creating these viable alternatives to ecological and economic extraction. So the map will map out urban farms and other land-based projects and different organizations working for food justice and land access in their communities, and other community spaces, reconnecting people in these ways. And so we hope that this map will serve as a resource for local people wanting to get involved in a larger movement for a just and regenerative world in their own communities. Again, I'm extremely grateful for the work I get to do in the world and for you all to be here and witness me share this with you. Curious what you'll do later today or tomorrow. And if anyone has any questions or wants to dialogue, I think learning comes from that. So thank you.
Thank you, Alexa. Such a powerful message, and I think it speaks to so many people's heart. As I'm looking at some of the notes in the chat, people are like, "Amen." So someone wrote, "I would have been yelling out my amens and yes, yes, yes if we were in the room together." She said, "As a white middle-class woman, I want to understand how to be a positive influence without coming across as a savior. Any advice?"
Yeah, good question. So it's really good to hear people recognizing that white saviorism is a part of a problem. So I really appreciate whoever asked this. Sorry, it's hard. I can't also track. So thank you, Dorothy, for relaying these messages too. I mean, I could, but it's a little challenging. So thank you for acknowledging that, like, being a white savior might be deemed as inappropriate, which in my opinion it is. You know, we've already experienced that in this world. White saviorism, missionary style communication and support to communities of Black and brown people, and it's harmful. And there's so many things to suggest, but I think like key is listening, asking open-ended questions like, what do you need? How can I show up? And sometimes asking the Black and brown people is a little too much. Like, maybe it's really talking to the white communities, and like maybe it seems to be clear right now that there's a message asking white communities to learn about anti-racism, to learn about anti-oppression, to like go deep within themselves and pay attention to how they might subtly be holding that within them without even recognizing. I know a ton of white folks that are not, I wouldn't call them racist, and I wouldn't call them necessarily oppressive people, but they have potentially like racist tendencies or oppressive tendencies just because of the nature that they have privilege of being white. So I suggest to go within yourself, to really deeply try to deconstruct that all, connect it to the bigger picture, consider capitalism, consider housing, consider food access, learn history, talk to other white folks, like I said, and ask and listen to your communities of color that you're in relationship to. Thanks for asking the question.
Thank you so much. Okay, so a lot of people are just saying yay, yay, yay. So there's lots of that, so that's wonderful. And then someone had asked, so someone said, we have a community garden here in Colorado and would love to see how to connect their existing group to the wider group, I think, of the work that the Permaculture Action Network is doing. So if somebody already has something going on, like is there an easy way for them to plug in with the work that your organization is doing and get started?
Yeah. Well, so our organization has we do partner with projects like that. So you could always reach out to us at contact@permacultureaction.org. I can also post my regular email in this chat. I'm okay with receiving emails, which is just Alexa, C as in cat, Levy@gmail.com. And I can type that in after. And you can reach out if you wanted to, if you had, direct if you had something to offer potentially for a connection, a collaboration with Permaculture Action Network. Yeah. that's kind of the first step. and also,
so is that, oh, no, sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Go on, Dorothy. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, so is that the same if somebody was just starting out, so they don't have a project, should they do the same step? They make the same first step to contact you as well and just say, like, I'm really, really interested in doing something and starting a project in my area?
Good question. So let me see how to answer that. We aren't necessarily like a community garden starting organization, although we have supported urban farms and community gardens at the start of them. We tend to partner with projects that are already existing, which, like I said, we have been a part of starting projects that have are just beginning. But we tend to work with projects that are already existing because we want them to be sustained, and we understand that they already have a community there of people that are stewarding and of people that are dedicated. We also, really care about it matters to have a justice-focused lens for who we partner with. But yeah, you can always reach out. It's a little bit, the answer to that question is maybe like a little bit more wide than just like a one answer of yes or no. But yeah, reach out. It'd be great to talk if people are interested in getting started in community projects and community gardens. There's also tons of resources online. So Permaculture Action Network, we do this by partnering with touring artists and community events and different music festivals. So if something like that is in the region where your space is, then it lines up. So that's also part of it too. If you know of a potential artist that's in your town, or a cultural event or a community event, a music festival, it's in your town, near a space where you're wanting to start, definitely communicate with us.
Awesome. And so to that question, I guess, someone asked, are there events posted in your Facebook in different regions? Like, can you go to is that the best place to figure out where there are events that are occurring? I know right now there probably aren't many events occurring, obviously, for obvious reasons, but if somebody wanted to get plugged in.
Yes, definitely. So
okay.
We have bioregional crews across the country. So we're a decentralized organization. So we don't have a hierarchical structure, and we organize with different working groups and in like different bioregions locally. So we have on our Facebook is the best place to find where our events will be. We're like really on it with putting them up, but it is true. Unfortunately, right now, this is the longest time in over 5 years that we haven't had an action day actually happen. But we've had some canceled in this time. But yes, Facebook is a good place to find them. There isn't like a particular organization of like differentiating between bioregions. We just post them all out through the Facebook.
Gotcha. So there's a couple comments. One is saying, thank you for your passion and honesty. Let's get to work. So that's a great one. And another one, it says, when asking people of color to help white folks how to do better, we must also ask what their rates are. We are asking for labor and we must be willing to pay for it. And several people agreed with that, which I also agree with. And I think that probably speaks to your heart too, which is that, I think part of the reason why we're having this conversation is that, we have placed people of color in a particular place where a lot of times their work is not valued in the same way, especially within a capitalist society. So I think it's really, really important that we're trying to make sure that we're supporting communities and uplifting communities rather than creating and reduplicating oppressive structures. I guess one question embedded sort of in there for me is I know a lot of our community is new to sort of these conversations and maybe not so used to having them, and they're really open to having them, but they're looking for a lot of resources. And I know we've been trying to compile resources of just some really great ally organizations that are doing amazing things and that are trying to help them sort of be able to be connected with the communities that they need to as they're learning in a way that's not onerous or taxing on people of color that are already kind of dealing with a lot of things, especially right now. Do you have any like suggestions of, I know I've given some and some other people in our community, and as I said, we're creating that list, but I'm curious, do you have any that you are like, we work with these organizations in particular? And sorry to put you on, I hope that doesn't put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. It's a good question. It's interesting. I'm finally starting to get comfortable being like, Permaculture Action Network needs money. We've been doing this for it's almost 6 years, and no one has ever been paid a salary, and no one's ever been, we've go through weeks of working. Some weeks like have been like 80 hours a week, and we currently have received a grant to work on this just transition mapping project that I'm telling you about, that I was explaining, that will be mapping out these projects. And the team is all people, it's majority people of color. And we actually are able to pay only for a certain amount of time, a certain amount of hours, because that's all we had granted. So, I mean, we're definitely, you can donate to Permaculture Action Network. Also, the money that goes through Permaculture Action Network directly supports all these projects. So like I said, we've done 101 Permaculture Action Days. There's been about 90 some odd sites that we've had Permaculture Action Days at, from California to New York, from Michigan to Louisiana. And so what we do with funding, and what we've chosen to do instead of prioritizing the needs of the people that are organizing, is we've chosen to like funnel all of those resources into actually supporting those projects. So funding goes to, like I was saying earlier, like building rainwater catchment systems, planting public food forests, building free farm stands in the south side of Chicago. So it's, I've not to sound, not trying to hype up our project, but it is really cool. Like we really funnel our resources to all of these different projects on the ground that are generally led by communities of color. Friends of mine have an organization called Led to Life. We've partnered with them before, and they're doing something that is also pretty unique and beautiful, where they are actually melting down weapons of violence, guns predominantly, and turning them into shovels, and then creating ceremony to hold space for grieving, and planting trees at sites of violence with those shovels, with families that have been affected by that violence. And so we've partnered with Led to Life and had action days with them 2 times. And there are tons of other incredible projects, like support Black and Brown artists. Like there's tons of Black and Brown farms if you want to support folks. Black Earth Farms, they're doing a free distribution out here in the Bay Area. Like Black Bodies right now, like giving more and more and more. Like they are farming, they're all young farmers. There's a group in Los Angeles as well. Again, that's Black Earth Farm. They're like collecting, making giant boxes of produce and distributing them for free to Black and Brown communities. They need finances. There's so many projects. I suggest continuing to look. Yeah.
I just got a note on one of our makerspaces, Ace Monster Toys, which is actually in your area, supports Led to Life as a makerspace. And so she is, so that's Rachel, for anyone who doesn't know her, she goes by Crafty on our Slack, and she's offering to let everyone know how she did it. And I think that's just a really great, excellent way to show like how we can be better partners with our community and supportive of Black lives and Black efforts, especially in this time when we're trying to be more mindful of that. So this is awesome. So amazing. One note that Rebecca said, she said she's really excited to hear about permaculture ideas in reference to the maker movement. And she said in her local area, the discussion is usually about gardening or agriculture, but she's seeing that it's much, much broader than that. So she said, thank you, Alexa, and thank you, Nation of Makers, for this choice of keynote speakers. So thank you. I also agree with that. But I think it is really important that people think beyond just sort of the simple like planting community gardens, although that is amazing. There's a lot of other work that can be done. And I know I was really struck by looking at your website when I first learned about the Permaculture Action Network, because I was a little ignorant as to kind of the breadth of like what can be done in terms of creating these regenerative systems within communities. And really, you kind of think of, I think the easiest thing first, or the thing that kind of jumps to your mind first, is you want to think about all these other ways that you could build and create. And I think for me, it's just really exciting to think about just what makers do, right? Like how we build and how do we create, and what does it mean to have access to these tools and technologies to make things, and what are the things that we're making in our community, and how can those make a difference, right? Like how, we see that very tangibly right now with, there's a lot of focus on the personal protective equipment that makers are making for their communities. And it's a really great example of how we can be sort of helpful within our community and creating, a structure that helps to support the people within our own communities. But taking it past that and really thinking about how do we continually, make sure that we're not just nurturing the people, but the earth and, ourselves together, sort of in this cycle. So I don't know if I think I don't think there was a question there except to say, do you want to talk about some of the other projects beyond just, I know you talked a little bit about the rainwater catchment systems. Are there any other like sort of really notable projects that you like can think of that, really stood out to you as a really great example of this type of, more deeper work in terms of regenerative like regenerative structures, I guess, within the community.
Yeah, thanks for asking. And thank you for Rebecca for saying what you said. Yeah, I think it's really easy to overlook the social components of what urban farms and community gardens that are focusing on building regenerative systems for localized resilient communities. Like, I think people sometimes overlook the social components to like what that actually does and how that breaks down like systemic oppression. Like there are, like I was talking about the free farm stand. This is a place that is called the Breathing Room in the south side of Chicago. And the south side of the Breathing Room is this building that I believe was an old school that was transformed into a Black liberatory space. There's like a free like on the downstairs, there's a free store with like all clothing and shoes and anything that people could need, that people can come in and exchange. They can leave something, they can take something, they can take something without leaving something. There's like a music studio, there's cooking classes, there's drumming and music and healing happening, workshops happening there. And then across the way, there was an empty lot that this farmer named Steve took over and took many, many, many months, potentially a whole year, to build up just the soil. The goal of one of the goals of this plot of land was to grow food to actually distribute to the community. When I was there wasn't a grocery store or access to fresh produce anywhere in sight. Like, communities of color have been so deeply oppressed at the level of their physical health. Not only the recognition that a knee can be put on someone's head for 9 minutes that murders them, but like they're being murdered every day by being expected to eat food that's just coming from a corner store. Like, this is systematic oppression. So when a garden is placed in a community like that, and a structure of a free farm stand is willing to distribute food for free to people in that community and invite people in to farm and tend and learn and heal with the land with one another, that is a social system that's supportive. Another beautiful thing that's standing out for me is thinking of in Oakland, California, right here, last June, we had an action day at an elementary school. It's called Hoover Elementary School. And my dear friend, Wanda Stewart, has been gardening there for many years. And actually, the first fruit trees that were planted there, I planted over 4 years ago with my friend Malika, who started this organization called Growing Together, which is planting fruit trees at elementary schools. And last year at Hoover Elementary School, which this school is predominantly, it's in West Oakland, it's a predominantly Black community, predominantly low-income Black community. And this school has the most vibrant garden you've ever seen on a school ground. Like, these kids are spending time like growing collards and learning about the cycles of butterflies and beetles. Like, last year we had an action day and we had 11 projects that were done, which was one of the coolest. Like, it was a high amount of projects. Some of the projects were the fact that there's two women who are two Black women who are actually sisters. They've been at Hoover Elementary School for 19 and 17 years, I believe, and they are crosswalk guards on either side of this building, so in two different streets, and they're sisters. They've been there for that long and have stood there, have had no seating, have stood there for all those years. And when we went and we were doing our site visits, and it's a place, it's in our community. So we're there, the listening and asking, even if like I've already been there before. It's like, what do y'all need? And one of the women was like, I have sciatica from this job, and I love this job, but I'm standing here on the corner all the time and I'm old, like I need a place to sit. So the action day, like, we built 2 benches on either corner, and like without permission from the city, we nailed them into the concrete, like, and they were made out of redwood that was donated from Ashby Lumber, and like it was like $1,000 worth of materials. And then it was actually an action day with the Burning Man community and Burners That Borders, and it was is a replacement of the Burning Man pre-compression party. So this mobilization of tons and tons of people, there were almost, I think, 400 people there that day. We built these 2 benches. We built a pond for learning, for Black and brown children to learn about different ecosystems, so they can like actually understand different life of plants, like that are land-based plants. We built a like thinking of a social system that supports Black and brown people, like it's hard to sometimes think that this is so important, but it is. So this elementary school lot has, there's like one like hill that comes down in the back that is like the other side of that piece of land is the garden. It's connected, the garden's here. Here is like a big slope. And in the winter it rains and this area that's kind of flat floods. So at that action day, we built 130 some odd foot long swale, which is, a swale is basically digging a ditch. So like thinking of digging a ditch in the middle of land so that when rain falls, it can actually sink and seep into the ground and then spread, instead of just running off and pooling and ending up in the gutters. So the soil is now a 130-foot long swale that's going through the back of the elementary school slope that has led to flooding where the kids haven't been able to play in the winter. Now it's filled, that swale is filled with all native species. So we're bringing back native pollinators, native, like all those pollinators, they're going to pollinate the fruit trees and all the food that the kids are then going to eat and the families are then going to take home. And also the kids now have the opportunity to play on the blacktop. Like, to me, like there's really not much more beautiful than like seeing Black and brown children like playing and laughing. And like, so all of these like projects are connected to social systems. I think of the Sogoreté Land Trust, which is a Indigenous, like women's led Indigenous nonprofit organization that is acquiring land back into Indigenous stewardship here in the Bay Area. And January 2018, or was it 2019? We did a Permaculture Action Day with Sogoreté Land Trust, and they were building a disaster preparedness readiness hub for their community that was going to have a roof to catch rainwater, to be able to inside store tools and materials and food for emergency, as well as building they were building their first ceremonial arbor, the Ohlone ceremonial arbor on this land in the past 250 years. And although we didn't put up all of the structure at the action day because there was more of a, they preferred a smaller group of intention, we had people supporting, like people were debarking those pieces of wood. And like, I mean, just the beauty of recognizing how people can show up to be in solidarity with communities, and like the beauty and magic that comes from the outcome. There's tons of other projects that I can think of, but I'll leave it at that.
Those are all amazing. Can you do me a favor, Alexa? At some point, can you either send them to me, or if you have a moment to stick them into the notes for this session or the chat, that would be great for a lot of those links. I think people were furiously trying to write everything down and capture it and still list it at the same time, which can be challenging. Yeah. So we would really, really appreciate that. Any other questions? Let's see. I think a lot of people are putting in suggestions of sort of places that are also doing some different types of regenerative community building in different ways. So there's Edible Schoolyard, there's Fresno Freedom School, a number of different efforts. So we appreciate everyone sharing their ideas and thoughts. Let's see. I think we got all the questions. Does anyone else have any other questions? Please do put them in the chat. If not, I just want to say, Alexa, thank you so much for honoring us with your presence today. We really, really, really appreciate you being here. We really appreciate your time and energy and all the work that you're doing. We really appreciate the opportunity to engage with you in the future, because I think a lot of people are probably going to contact you. Hopefully it won't be overwhelming, to try to figure out how they can also help to further the work that your organization is doing and provide the supports that you need in different communities to make sure that we're uplifting communities of color, making sure that we are doing the right thing as it relates to Black and brown people all over this earth, and just continuing to support efforts of regeneration and restoration and not just sustainability. So I think, with our topic, sustainability, supporting us all, through this ecosystem building, really thinking about not only how we can sort of sustain and support, but to your challenge, actually regenerate and restore, some of our communities that have definitely not only not been sustained, but not been, really nourished in any meaningful way. So thank you for the meaningful work that you're doing and for spreading it to us. I was really excited to have you here to explain to people what Permaculture Action Network does. So I'm very excited that you were able to join us today. Thank you.
So much. I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much, Dorothy. I'm going to put in the chat just our website, our Facebook, our Flip Cause, which is a current crowdfunding, and Instagram, and then a video from an action day last year. So if you want to get a feeling for what it was like at a Black and Brown farm in Colorado that distributes food for free. So I'll put them there, and then also put my email if anyone wants to reach out to me, or I'll put our Permaculture Action Network contact email.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Contact@permacultureaction.org. Okay, great.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. And thank you, Alexa, again for joining us. And I hope you have a wonderful and beautiful day today and have more rest in your life as well. Thank you.
You too. Thank you all. Take care.
Bye, everyone.